I am under the belief that there are five crypto narratives that are going to gain some real solid traction if the crypto market continues in the direction that it's going now. And so, in today's video, I'm going to tell you exactly why I believe these five narratives are going to perform well and what I am expecting next from them. So, look, we have a good bit to unpack today. So, let's get the ball rolling. And, guys, do not forget that if you want to trade some Bitcoin, Solana, ETH, XRP, and many more, head to the link down below to BTCC, in which you can start trading on up to 500x leverage today, which I wouldn't trade on 500x leverage, but you can. And of course, you will get a 10% bonus on all first time deposits between $500 and $100,000. Guys, this means that you could get up to $10,000 in free trading money. Don't be silly. Head to the link down below. Go check it out. Now, today we are going to be focusing on five narratives again, and these are going to all be based on social data. Listen, I am under the belief that social data, which is just data that analyzes what retail investors like you and me are doing, I believe this is the most important thing to pay attention to. I think when you pair social data with whale data, you combine them together, you're in a spot to where you can truly get an understanding of what other people are doing. And in a space like we're in, which is very much controlled by the socials and by the people, I think it's important to watch them. Now, what we're going to be doing again is we're going to be focusing in on social data because it's pointing out five key narratives that seem to be gaining a ton of traction, even though no one notices it yet. Now, what we can see here to kind of get started, and shout out to lunarcrush.com for this thread because it's absolutely phenomenal. But what we can see here is that, listen, social metrics are down a ton still. In comparison to what we saw last year, no one really cares about crypto. No one's really talking about crypto. We're seeing people still exiting. We're still actually seeing people leaving the crypto space right now. And although Bitcoin's price is literally near $98,000 at the time of recording this video, it doesn't really seem that social and retail investors really care at all. And generally, I actually think that this is a good thing. What I've come to recognize is that when retail investors really come back in the market, we're usually getting close to some sort of peak, right? We're getting some close to some sort of top because oftentimes when retail enters, the whales, the lizard people, they use that as an opportunity to exit to kind of dump on those retail investors. And so the fact that we're not seeing retail coming back like crazy yet identifies to me that this move that we're in could very well continue over the macro towards 105, 110, $115,000 for Bitcoin, bringing up many altcoins with it. But what we can do, though, while nothing is really happening from a social perspective for the most part, is we can really tune into what is gaining some momentum and what certain narratives are being looked at by retail and whales. Because the reality here, guys, is that the narratives that are gaining momentum now are likely going to be the ones that see real explosive growth in the future. Because what you have to understand is this: when retail investors come back, when they start flooding back in the floodgates, what they're going to do is they're going to look and see, okay, what's big? What's exciting? What's popping? What's every YouTuber talking about? Where's all the FOMO? Where's all the hype? Where's all the alpha, right? And so the narratives that are happening right now, that are growing right now, when retail comes back in, they're going to see that they've been growing, and then they're going to jump in, and then they're going to FOMO in. And so it's up to us to identify which ones are growing now before they get in, to be able to then position ourselves before they jump in order to maximize gains, to be able to take profits when they do come back. Now, with this in mind, there are five narratives that are really gaining momentum. So let's jump into it. Again, shout out to Lunar Crush. This is not sponsored. I just really like their Twitter page. So the very first one is RWAs. Real world assets. I think this is one of the most clear and obvious ones out of the group. And I do believe that they are clearly still performing incredibly well, right? RWAs kicked off the week with a strong spike in social interactions. Many of these pop in, Link, HBAR, AVAX, VET, and Ondo leading, but a ton more that you recognize: QNT, MKR, XDC, PropC, GFI, BFK, or BKN, or AI. I mean, there's been a bunch of them. And I actually do think this is super, super bullish for the market because the reality is that the RWA space had its run, right? It had its kind of big bang moment. And I was a little bit concerned about it, to be honest, as someone who does own some RWAs, because usually what can happen in this market is that a narrative will gain a lot of momentum. And then once it loses that first big wave of hype that it had, some of them just never recover, right? I mean, the reality, think about gaming in 2021, at the end of 2021. Gaming took off. It went crazy. But then it never really came back. Like, it never really gained that momentum. And it's been years, right? And so whenever you see things like this, which is RWAs gaining some momentum again, it's actually a great sign that this could be here to last. And there could be some long-term sustainability for that narrative, which is a huge plus. And that is, of course, why it is one of the best ones to still be looking at, in my opinion. Now, what we can see here is that there are actually some decent ones that you've probably not heard of before. There's VRD gaining a ton of percentages, Angle, LMR, AXL, which many of you probably have heard of, and XDB. So if you do want some key ones to go check out, feel free to go check those ones out as well. Now, the next narrative, again, is going to be one that you've probably not looked at a ton, but you definitely should, especially as the crypto space starts to grow, and that is storage. Okay. So, what we can see here is that the storage sector is relatively small, and I do agree, but almost every single storage related cryptocurrency has seen an increase in social mentions over the last 7 days. Our full storage sector bubble map from earlier in the week is below. And what you can see here is things like Flux, things like FIL, AIOZ, OORT, AR, REP, BTT, Store J. I mean, they're starting to gain a lot of momentum, especially Wall, right? Wall popping off at 1.87 mentions is something worth noting because I'm not going to lie, guys. Before I looked at this thread by Lunar Crush, I hadn't even looked at storage, to be honest. Like, it's just not very, it's not something I look at, right? It's not something that I find very exciting. But considering the fact that we are seeing so much momentum starting to build over in the storage sector, it is important to note that, hey, we need to go check it out. And so what am I going to do? I'm going to go look at some file. I'm going to go look at some Flux. I'm going to go look at some AIOZ, some Wall, and I'm going to see if their charts do align with what I'm looking for. Because if I can start to spot some, some maybe prices falling, bullish divergences, things like that, it's probably a good idea to start positioning yourself in the storage sector, especially with this sort of growth, right? With this sort of pop in overall incentive. So, yeah, I think this is a great one. I think it's another cool one to look at. Now, the next one being the next narrative being AI, and I think this one's an obvious one. And AI does kind of follow suit with what I told you all about RWAs. The fact that AI is still gaining a little bit of sorry, I'm trying to switch the screen here. There we go. The fact that AI is still gaining a little bit of momentum, even after seeing that huge explosion in October, November, and December, is a good thing. It shows sustainability. It shows longevity. I was a little bit concerned about the AI space because it did seem a little gimmicky to some degree. There have been so many projects that have just attached the words AI to their project. In reality, they had nothing to do with AI. They were just trying to tag that name on. And so when you start seeing a bunch of gimmicky things like that and a lot of retail interest in it, you do have to get concerned that it might not last very long. But the fact that AI is still gaining some momentum even now, I think is a great sign. And some of the key ones include of course, Tau, FET, Render, Near, and INJ absolutely smashing it throughout the sector, over the last week or so, in which you can also see it here, right? I mean, this is absolutely fantastic. INJ going crazy, honestly, but FET picking up some of the best ones. They have AI XBT and ARC and some of these ones, but again, some of these like AI XBTs, they do get a little bit gimmicky. I know they do have actual utilities, but I do like to stick to some of your core fundamentalist AI cryptos. So I am more into the FET, INJ. You can see TARS there as well, which is amazing. You guys know I'm a huge advocate for TARS. I have a butt ton of TARS. And so it is cool to see it up there as well. But overall, the AI space absolutely smashing it over the last week or so, which is very good. Now, the next ecosystem or the next narrative is the Salana ecosystem. And this is something I told you all about just maybe a week or so ago. Now, before I actually do dive into the Salana ecosystem and what we talked about a week ago, I will remind you, listen, all these things that we do here on the channel, guys, whenever we're sat here and we're looking for narratives, we're exploring things, we're trying to find these early plays, we're trying to position ourselves before the moves. These are all things that we do based on our strategies, right? And if you are someone who feels like you're wandering through the world of crypto without feeling confident, without feeling consistent, the reality is that you probably just don't have a strong enough strategy to guide you through your journey of investing. And if you feel that way, what I want you to do is I want you to head to the link down below and check out the Crypto Strategy School, which is a school we created. We have thousands of students. And what we do there is very simple. We take crypto investors just like yourselves, and we give you the tools that you need in order to create winning strategies. Because the reality is that a winning strategy is what creates a winning investor. It is never the other way around. And that is a huge misconception here in the space. And I define a winning investor as someone who's confident and someone who's consistent. And so if you want the confidence to be able to walk through this market and make moves, and if you want to consistently win with those moves, check out the link down below. And the best part is that if you don't see growth within the first few hours, I'll literally just give you your money back. You can see my trades, other creators, or have coaches, workshops, live streams. I mean, there's so much value there. So head to the link down below. And if you are in the school, let people know in the comments how you feel about it. Okay. Now, moving forward again, over the last week, we've been talking about the Solana ecosystem, and I've told you all, Solana is making a recovery. What we saw from Solana was a little bit spooky, guys. When everything happened with Pump Fund, when everything happened with Melania coin and Trump coin. I mean, that was a little bit spooky. It was a little bit worrying because we saw a huge drainage of liquidity from the Solana ecosystem that could be sometimes impossible to recover from. But Solana has been putting in the work. The Solana Foundation has not given up. They've continued the pursuit of greatness that they're on. And I believe that it's starting to pay off. We're starting to see TVL within the Solana ecosystem, or total value locked, growing, which means that the ecosystem is starting to flourish again. And when you look at some of this social data, and you can see here that it is starting to heat up and that people are mentioning Solana and Fartcoin and Trump and all these other things again, it just goes to show that Solana is here and it's here to stay. And so if you're not looking at these Solana ecosystemic tokens and coins, I think you're really missing out, especially again on something like Tars AI. It's an AI crypto that's also on the Solana ecosystem. That's a double touch. I think there's a lot of opportunity there. These are the things you need to be looking for, okay? And the very last narrative is one that I've really started to pay attention to over the last couple of days, which is why I made that SWE video about 3 days ago. 3 days ago, I believe, maybe 4 days ago or so, roughly. And that is, of course, SWE. Now, what we can see here is that yesterday morning, SWE announced their plans to integrate SBTC or stacks into their ecosystem. Following the announcement, both ecosystems saw a notable rise in social activity, especially SWE going up crazy, 277,000 engagements, picking up nearly 10% just over the course of 1 week, which is smashing it. We also did see SWE have a I can't remember what the name of it was, but they had like this big event at Token 2049. It was huge. I mean, people were there. They were chatting. They were talking. It was exciting. I mean, it was way more exciting than any of the Ethereum stuff that was going on. So it's very worth noting that, SWE in itself is a narrative, but the SWE ecosystem is another one to really be paying attention to. Okay. And so with that in mind, these are the things that I'm looking at. These are the things that I'm trying to check out. And again, you see how we're talking about things like SWE. We're talking about things like storage, right? We're talking about the Solana ecosystem. You need to be chasing these things and looking for these things before all the excitement gets to them, before everyone's screaming about them, because this is the true way to be able to position yourself ahead of the market so that when everyone's jumping in, you're getting out, because that's how you consistently make profits. I mean, one of the things that I preach to you all so much here on the channel is that when things get good and when everyone starts buying, that should be when you're exiting. That should be when you're getting out. And in order to be able to accomplish that, moments like now are when you need to be getting in, right? And so that's what I'm going to be doing right now. I'm going to check out some of these narratives. I will let the Discord know some of the different things within each one of these narratives that I do plan on buying or selling or whatever I plan on doing with each one. So if you do want to check that school out, of course, link is in the description down below. And do not forget that if you are an experienced trader, head to the link to BTCC down below, in which they are going to give you that huge 10% bonus. Again, don't be silly. It is a fantastic deal, one that you should not miss out on. And so, of course, I hope you guys did enjoy today's video. If you did, you can always let me know by smashing that like button and subscribing to the channel if you are new. And I can't wait to see you all in the next one. Peace out, everybody.